New Year, or Happy January at least. Knowing myself, this video is probably going up a bit later than anticipated, but regardless, it's the new year, and with every year that passes, I find myself feeling more nostalgic, which for me means revisiting my comfort TV shows. So to bring in the new year, I thought it would be fun to rewind and take a look at some of the celebratory and interesting food moments from these iconic TV series and recreate a few of them today. So get comfy, relax, and let's get into it.
Eat it.
You don't have to do that, Kevin.
Oh no, I'm glad this is happening.
With the new year comes New Year's resolutions, and for a lot of us that means trying to eat healthier. But in this festive episode of The Office, Kevin's resolution is a bit more specific.
I said that I would eat more vegetables, and I haven't yet. But it's okay. I still have time, since last year I ate none.
This one revolves around Pam eagerly setting up a resolution board for the office, Michael preparing himself for news about Holly's engagement, and everyone just struggling to keep their resolutions, including Kevin. I, however, would not recommend Michael's approach to increasing vegetable intake or Kevin's request for Cheese Whiz. But his other idea for hollandaise has potential. And so to make this dish a little more appetizing, let's at least season and roast the broccoli first. I grabbed a few crowns of broccoli and cut off the florets. Surprisingly, a lot of people don't know this, but you can eat the stem. It's actually my favorite part because it stays super crunchy and adds a different texture to the dish, so please don't waste them. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I also sliced a few cloves of garlic and tossed them both onto a large baking sheet, along with olive oil and the seasonings as promised, that's salt, red pepper flakes, and black pepper. And give that 20 to 25 minutes at 425 degrees. Meanwhile, toast some breadcrumbs in a pan over medium-high heat for even more textural variety. And I got started on the hollandaise sauce. So into a heat-proof bowl, I placed egg yolks and lemon juice, gave that a quick mix, and place that over a double boiler. Then here I'm slowly adding the melted butter, whisking the entire time. And this should thicken up a bit and become this super velvety, smooth, creamy sauce. Immediately remove this from the heat and also the mixing bowl itself, because the first time I made this, I left it on the counter while moving the camera around, and I came back to a bowl of scrambled eggs. Definitely not what we're looking for in our sauce. But Kevin might actually be onto something here, because this sauce is what really brings this all together. It adds this rich tanginess to the otherwise deep, earthy, roasty flavors of the broccoli, and all of the textures together is just really, really good. So this next episode is probably the most iconic of the bunch. You know, the one where Ross brings his monkey to the Friends' New Year's Eve party. I can't believe that this episode aired years before I was born, but how beloved the series still is to this day. Regardless, this episode features one of my favorite of the Friends' many loved interests. It's David.
I was just saying to my friend that I thought you were the most beautiful woman that I'd ever seen in my life.
He and Phoebe have the cutest, most wholesome meet cute. This then leads to their first date over Chinese takeout. But in this scene in particular, we unfortunately don't get a clear view or mention of what food they're pushing around with their chopsticks. So I went with the classic and my personal favorite Americanized Chinese takeout dish, chow mein. Slice up half an onion, a few stalks of spring onion, and a handful of garlic. Next, I added a couple of tablespoons of oil to a big skillet, then added the sliced onions and scallion whites, brought it up to high heat, and allowed everything to cook for 2 to 3 minutes, stirring here and there. Once everything's got a bit of color, add the garlic and noodles, giving that another few minutes to heat through. In the meantime, in a small bowl, I'm mixing together oyster sauce, dark soy sauce, maple syrup, regular soy sauce, dashi powder, black pepper, and water. I'm adding a handful of bean sprouts and the scallion greens to the pan, pouring the sauce over everything, and giving this another 2 to 3 minutes. And that's pretty much it. I know I've been rambling on and on about nostalgia, but this one really activated something in my brain. Not that I ate much Chinese takeout growing up, but I think it reminds me of family holiday parties like New Year's Eve, where my aunts would cook up huge vats of different stir-fried noodles. But yeah, this one is just so simple and just the perfect comfort meal, in my opinion. Speaking of comfort, let's move on to one of my comfort series that I find myself rewatching every single year. It's Gossip Girl. And in true Gossip Girl fashion, this is such a dramatic episode. This has car crashes, affairs, fake cousins, unrequited love, all unraveling at a New Year's Eve party. It's a lot. And although there's not really any major food moments in this episode, we do see these lemon drinks being handed around the party. I personally don't drink, so I'm not exactly sure what this drink is. My best guess would be some sort of lemon-flavored champagne-based cocktail, hence the lemon peel and the fact that it's New Year's Eve. I, however, was most excited to recreate the garnish, and I thought it would be fun to make little candy bows, obviously inspired by Blair's iconic headbands. Grab a handful of lemons. I'm using around 7 to 8 of them here. Oh, and I really like Meyer's lemons for this specifically, but we're essentially making long ribbons of lemon peel out of the peels of the lemons. I have this citrus knife, which was super satisfying to use, as you can see, but you can totally use just a regular knife for this, but just please be careful of your fingers, please. Now juice the weird looking lemons and set that aside for later. Grab a medium-sized saucepan and add the lemon ribbons and just enough cold water to cover them. Now I'm bringing this up to a boil, removing the ribbons, and repeating this process 2 to 3 times. This part is quite annoying, but it helps to remove all of the bitterness left in the lemon peels so that we're left with a pleasant and nice tasting candy. Then into that same saucepan, except empty of course, place all of the lemon syrup ingredients this time, lots of sugar, the lemon juice, and a splash of water. bring this to a quick boil and let it simmer on low with the lemon ribbons for 10-ish minutes. Remove the ribbons for the last time, thankfully, and while the syrup cools, I'm coating each of them in lots and lots of sugar and tying them into cute little coquettish bows. Alright, into my cocktail glasses, I added 2 to 3 teaspoons of the syrup. Then instead of champagne, I have this really delicious sparkling green tea. Yeah, luckily this bounced off my window and not through it. But yes, we cannot forget about the garnish. It's so cute. That's all I have to say. I lied. This drink tastes exactly like a yellow Sour Patch Kid, but obviously fresher, and I don't know if the right word I'm looking for is juicy, but it is super refreshing, and the lemon ribbons are basically candy, so actually that's probably where I'm getting the sour patchiness from. I also wanted to revisit a show that I was utterly obsessed with in high school.
Take us to Gray's Papaya.
Yes, Ted, you rock.
We couldn't go back for Natalia, a human being, but we do have time for hot dogs?
Yeah, we like hot dogs.
Rewatching this episode for the sake of this video makes me really want to re-binge the entire series again. I feel like a lot of it probably went over my head as a teenager, and I just think it would be interesting to see it again with a more developed adult brain. This episode starts with Ted renting a very fancy limo for the group so that they can hit the 5 best parties in New York City and ring in the new year at their favorite one. But with most of their adventures, things don't really go as planned, and after party number 2, they make a stop for hot dogs. Now, I'm not the biggest hot dog fan. I feel like school lunches definitely ruined that for me, so it never occurred to me that I'd need to know the contents of a New York style hot dog, but it's apparently a plain hot dog topped with hot mustard, sauerkraut, and something called onion sauce. I'm intrigued by this one. I'm bringing my skillet with a bit of oil to medium heat and then adding a diced onion, cooking that down for 5 to 6 minutes. Following that up with a weird mix of ingredients, that's ketchup, maple syrup or any sweetener of choice, apple cider vinegar, Worcestershire sauce, a dash of cinnamon, and cayenne. Oh, and a splash of water as well. I brought everything up to a quick boil and let this simmer on low for 10 minutes. I believe traditionally, quote unquote, that the buns are steamed and the hot dogs are boiled, which is why they're referred to as dirty water dogs. Getting less excited to try these now, but I kind of detoured from the authentic methods and toasted the buns with a bit of butter and quickly grilled the hot dogs just because that sounds a bit better to me. And the onions should also be ready at this point. They should look nice and glossy and syrupy, if that makes sense. But that's pretty much it. I loaded on all of the toppings and they were looking quite appetizing, I will say.
No. Oh my goodness. Ew.
I ended up serving this with a papaya drink because in this episode they specifically referenced the hot dog stand Gray's Papaya, which is known for their, you guessed it, papaya drink.
Oh my god. Ew. Oh my god. I hate that. Oh my god. Oh my god, I can't.
Seedless papaya side for you.
So I quickly blended together papaya chunks, ice, maple syrup, lots of lime juice, and a splash of milk.
Okay.
And this combo was surprisingly very tasty. I forgot to mention that I also hate papayas on top of not liking hot dogs, so the fact that I thoroughly enjoyed and ended up finishing both of these really says something.
Come on, Charlie Brown, it's almost midnight. I'll pour you a root beer.
Thank you, Lucy. I've decided next year I'm going to be a changed person.
This last one isn't technically an episode, but it is pure nostalgia. It's probably one of the more depressing Peanuts TV specials, but with the usual charm and wholesomeness sprinkled in. While all of his friends are off enjoying their holiday breaks and preparing for the huge New Year's Eve party that night, Charlie Brown is unfortunately stuck finishing a book report on what I can only assume is a very daunting read for an 8-year-old, War and Peace. However, he eventually convinces himself to go to the party, even though he's only read 5 pages. Very relatable behavior, Charlie Brown. And after a very cute segment of musical chairs, Lucy offers him a glass of root beer next to what appears to be a mountain of chocolate chip cookies. I'm so excited to share this next recipe with you. I recently perfected my personal chocolate chip cookie recipe, and it starts with browning the butter. So in a small saucepan over medium heat, melt the butter. And once it starts to bubble a bit, you'll see these golden specks start to form at the bottom of the pan. Keep stirring. Until it's a beautiful, toasty, amber, golden brown, and then immediately remove it from the heat and let this cool slightly. In the meantime, I'm chopping up a ton of dark chocolate here. Then to my mixing bowl, I'm first adding the brown butter plus the 2 sugars. Just folding that together until it sort of looks like wet sand almost. Next, I'm following that up with an egg along with some vanilla paste. Giving that another good mix before adding in the flour, salt, and baking powder. And the most important part, the chocolate chunks. I woke up the next morning with a huge craving for a breakfast cookie, so I immediately prepped the cookies for baking. I'm a huge fan of those ginormous bakery style cookies, so this is about 1/3 of a cup of of dough per cookie, and this recipe makes about 6 cookies. Here, I'm strategically placing on even more chocolate chunks so that what we end up with are those beautiful pools of melted chocolate on top of each cookie. They look so beautiful, especially with a little sprinkle of flaky salt on top as well. These are my pride and joy. They're so decadent, but not overly sweet. They're crunchy, soft, chewy, gooey, all at the same time, and just so good. And honestly, I really like the idea of cookies and root beer as a flavor pairing, even maybe more so than milk and cookies. Like the carbonation and the herbal notes of the soda really cut through all of the richness of the cookie. And I don't know, it just feels so childish and nostalgic, and this one was just really fun. That's everything I have for you today. As always, thank you so much for spending time with me. I really hope you're having a great start to your year, and I'd also love to know what your favorite nostalgic TV shows or movies are. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Woo.